Suddenly the knot felt ready to explode, and he had to make a dash for the gents. Emerging minutes later, Mariner scanned the room, not allowing his eyes to rest on anyone who might conceivably be looking out for him. The brunette was on her feet again, engaged in animated discussion with a man. Not Derek, Mariner decided. This man was a rough diamond, unshaven with collar-length dark hair, in jeans and a well-worn leather jacket, the Harley-Davidson logo stretched across his broad back. The body language was pure agitation, shoulders bunched, semaphore arms. Now he had his wallet out, flashing money, cajoling. Her pimp? Or just an over-attached regular? Whoever he was giving her a hard time about something. At one point, he grabbed the girl's arm, but she wriggled free. Then, before Mariner's eyes, her resistance seemed to crumble, and with a last cursory glance around the room for Derek, she slung her bag over her shoulder and reluctantly followed the Harley man towards the sliding glass doors. The whole exchange made Mariner uneasy, putting up just the excuse he needed. Feeling only a minor twinge of guilt for his own date, he tailed the couple out of the hotel and into the orange sodium glare of Broad Street, to where an 8-year-old Porsche with a dented boot squatted on double yellow lines, its hazard lights flashing. Concerned for the woman's safety, Mariner watched the couple get into the car. But Harley man was visibly calmer now, and, as they drove off, the woman seemed more irritated with him than anything else. Mariner perceiving trouble where there was none. "You got the wrong idea, mister. Occupational hazard." Left alone on the pavement, Mariner stared through the window to the hotel bar, where the attractive blonde seeking male 35 to 45 for discreet fun was even now anticipating his arrival, and knew he wasn't going back in there. He'd phone her tomorrow and apologize. Maybe. Turning away, Mariner threaded a path through the snarled traffic to the opposite side of the road, and into a dark and rowdy Australian bar. Over a pint of foul-tasting non-alcoholic beer, he watched the closing minutes of what most of the city's male population were glued to this evening, the live cup tie between Blues and Wolves. But after an uninspiring and goalless second half, followed by the usual inane discussion from the pundits, Mariner retraced his steps to the Chamberlain's underground car park. With nothing to distract him on the drive home, Mariner reflected on the evening's non-event, knowing deep down that it had never been a viable option, however desperate the circumstances. Was he desperate? It was nearly a year now since Greta had left. For a while, Mariner had really believed that they had something. But that was before Greta turned 40 and mutated into his mother, running his life for him and imposing unreasonable expectations until finally trying to force a commitment he couldn't make. That she'd abandoned him after that was no big surprise. The mystery was that she'd taken his confidence with her. Not his social confidence. His small talk had always been pathetic, but his confidence in bed, something he'd never had trouble with before. That last time, when he'd been unexpectedly invited to spend the night with a young WPC, he'd resorted to distraction tactics. As intimacy progressed, he'd tried mentally rehearsing the names of the actors who had played the Dirty Dozen and the Magnificent Seven, respectively. It had worked like a dream, until he had inadvertently spoken Steve McQueen's name out loud. "What?" She'd halted him mid-thrust, the expression on her face enough to precipitate his collapse, leaving them both agonizingly frustrated, and Mariner with a big enough question mark over his head to discourage her from ever seeing him again. That had been nearly 6 months ago, and Mariner didn't have the guts to pursue anything or anyone since. Tonight's quick fix was the intended solution, but if he couldn't keep it up with the assistance of Hollywood's finest, how would humiliating himself with a total stranger help matters? Delta 1 to all units. The car's radio, tuned to the NPU wavelength, cut through his maudlin train of thought. Request for urgent assistance at 34 Clarendon Avenue, Harborne. Informant an unidentified female. It was just a few streets away, on this same patch. Under normal circumstances, Mariner would have ignored the call. It was